The American dream is dead. Do I think the American dream is dead? Yes. And today I plan on making the case for why I think that is fact. And a few more things besides that. My name is Scott LeRette, and I'm the host of the Green Pants Podcast. I'm thrilled to be here, as I always am, because this is a lot of fun, and I like sharing my thoughts, my experience, my stories with you. And I would love to hear from you back. G.K. Chesterton was, I believe, an English author, and he once said, "The true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him." And then the opening scripture, which I think is pretty key to everything I'm going to talk about today, is Revelation 3, 1 through 2. "I know all the things you do and that you have a reputation for being alive, but you are dead. Wake up, strengthen what little remains, for even what is left is almost dead." Now, I kind of base this, though, around the quote from G.K. Chesterton. I'll read that again. "The true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him." And I'd read this, I'd learned about this quote, I can't recall where, but when I heard it and read it, it just really touched me, because if you really think about it, I think it says a lot about society today and where we've come and where we are as, from a cultural, moral, ethical standpoint, just humanity in general. Do we hate what's in front of us instead of loving what's behind us? I don't know, but I want to look at that. Our lives are fueled by what? More than by hate, but can the American dream survive because of what seems like the just insane amount of hate and division that is alive and well in our country right now? And I think everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. Is everybody concerned about it? I don't know. I mean, what is the American dream? What is it? I think when I think of the American dream, when I think of, just the best times, I don't know why, and maybe it's my age, I don't know, but the decade and the era that I think of is the 50s. I think of family, I think of faith, I think of grit, I think of the white picket fence with 2.4 kids and the one car in the driveway. And, at that time, I guess it would be more normally, dad working outside the house, mom working in the house. But for me, what I thought the American dream was, and where I was, I spent 35 years driving a car. I don't know. I figured it out. It was somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million miles I've driven in my sales job. All for what? For so long, it was for money. It was for baubles. It was for material. It was for toys. Even after I'd been married and we'd had children, to me, that was kind of what the American dream was for me. It was the material. But in the old school, though, dreams in the American dream was built on gratitude. It was built on faith, sacrifice, not resentment. What is your American dream? How do you see it? You can pause it right now, whatever, and just think about, to you, what does the American dream stand for? Now, I think there is an American dream. I do. I mean, I started with saying that, the American dream is dead. I'm not sure if it's dead, but I believe it's on life support and it's slipping. Come on. I know that it seems like every generation says that, you never had it this bad, or, it's the worst it's ever been. And I think every generation says that. But I think things are different today because so many things have changed that in the past were at least constants. Now, there are some statistics I wanted to point out, just kind of as a reality check. 75% of children live in 70% of children live in two-parent households. Upwards of 30% live with one parent. Families and adolescents report that not even 1/3 eat dinner once a week together at a dinner table. Now, divorce rates have come down. I guess I should say that they've leveled out. But in reality, those statistics that I had gathered, what they really said was not so much that divorce is getting better, the rates are coming down, it's that so many fewer people are getting married, but also so many fewer people are choosing to have children. I mean, that's a whole other episode, I think, but the dream that once united us, it just seems like there are probably millions and millions of us today saying, what does the American dream mean for me? Are you saying that? What does the American dream mean for me? I wrote down here, faith, grace, and love. It's been traded for blame and guilt, division replacing unity. Absolutely. When we stop loving what's behind us, we lose sight of what we fight for at all. Healthy pride of faith, family, work, and country, rooted in gratitude. Compare that to corrupted pride of idolization of self, money, fame, power, celebrity, entertainer, sports. We are so obsessed with our heroes, whoever they may be. Living with pride is about stewardship. Idolizing yourself and those that you worship is arrogance. And, one strengthens, one type of pride that I just described strengthens dreams. The other pride, the other example, destroys them. When you speak truth today, you will be mocked. It's true. There's a disdain for opposition. Have you said something that you've had a friend maybe recently in the last year or two that you said something that they agreed with so vehemently that they left, that they couldn't talk to you anymore, at least for that night or that afternoon or whatever, and they had to leave because they were so upset about not understanding and not believing that you believed the way you did? I think this is a key fracture. I think this is a key, as Malcolm Gladwell would say, this is absolutely a tipping point. Maybe it's tipped, but I think the common humanity and morality. Let's kind of go back. The first election that I voted in was, I believe, in 84. It was 84. I recall over the years hearing that Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, two giants, one on the left and one on the right, their policies couldn't have been any more divergent. Of course, one was just a staunch Democrat and the other was a staunch conservative. That's not what this is about, though. The point, though, that I want to make is that Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, I'm pretty sure it was Tip O'Neill, but they had their differences, but they had the core beliefs and ideas that they at least agreed on, and they were actually friends. What has become today, though? You see, mocking, I think, highlights what is false. Does that make sense? I think mocking is a weapon for those without facts. Now, I'm going somewhere with this because I think that if you want to think about what the American dream is and where it's going, we have to deal with how people are treating each other today, because it absolutely is pivotal to the ability to attain and realize what is the American dream. It's just not a dream like I had a dream I wanted to make a book or write, make a movie or something like that. That's not at all what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a life. The American dream, what it stands for, to be living in the United States of America. You can't rely on anyone else. Teresa said this, but it was something that her mother had mentioned to her, that, they were talking just about life in general. And her mother once said, you can't rely on anybody but yourself. And, that's a truth. And truth doesn't mock. Truth doesn't hate. It's extremely firm, but it's freeing. Does that make sense? And, I stood there at that bathroom at the country club 19 years ago when I told myself that I hated myself and I could barely hold myself up. That's where truth and faith, this is a difficult one, because I thought I was living the American dream. It was the cars and the money and the toys and things like that. But when you have the truth collide with reality, I think that's the absolute dissonance. I couldn't see it. No. I know what I want. I know this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is life. It was the material. Yeah, of course, wasn't it? I think that people can have the same type of cognitive dissonance where they've just got to a point where they may face two realities, and they realize what they're so striving for is not right, but they want to mold that wrong into a right so that they can live with themselves. I don't know if I got too deep there, but still, it's about how broken we are. And I think that there's definitely a way forward. There's absolutely a way forward. What did I write down here? I had the car, the job, the money. I believed in, I did. I believed in God. I had my faith. I just wasn't practicing it. You see, because I think that, for me at least, I began to tie together that my faith was absolutely linked to what I had and what I showed was important to myself. And I think that's where the dissonance that I'm referring to kind of exposed itself for me. I wasn't quite ready for it yet, but I know that all the material things weren't the dream. They weren't the American dream at all. They were a simple lie that looked like a dream, for sure. You see, even the devil, even a demon, believes in God. You believe me? He just does evil work, though. Absolutely. Now, I got to the point where I didn't just want to believe anymore. I wanted to build something worthy of belief. And for me, it happened to be that night at the country club. Absolutely. Faith first, work second. Without faith and works working together, no car or cocktail can buy you peace. But if we keep mocking each other, nothing will grow. Nothing will ever sustain. Nothing will ever become more. Division deepens, hope dies, and the soil of dreams turn toxic. Now, what does it take, though, to see? What does it take, though, for you to change, to see, hey, what's important to you? Now, I had a moment, I don't know if I've shared this or not, but we were at church, and I'll never forget it because Austin was on the right, and then it was me, and then Teresa, and then Logan. This was one of those rare moments that mean everything in the world, and I'll always remember it because it was so intensely spot on the money, yet he didn't know it. It was Austin. There came a time during church service where we prayed. We prayed for something. I don't even know what it was about. I have no idea what it was regarding. Austin, he elbows me in the ribs because I'm leaned over. I've got my hands like this and I'm leaned over. But one of the things I do, it's just weird. It's just me. But I pray with my eyes open. Even when I'm down like this, I'm down like this. It's just something that I do. And I've always done that. And it's just for some reason, I think I can see when I'm doing that. But he elbowed me. And what he says to me is this: Dad, if you want to see God, you got to close your eyes. That impacted me deeply. Austin didn't even know it. In fact, when I was talking about this recently, he thought it was pretty cool that he made Dad think, that he changed Dad's life, because that moment was profound for me. What's at stake? The American dream cannot thrive in toxicity and hate. It just can't. It will never get fixed. I do make the case, though, that there's a way forward. And I have 6 steps that I think we can use to make that all work. And I think that faith is the answer. Today, maybe you say, yes, I have a higher power. It's okay. Step 1, faith. Return to foundation bigger than yourself. It's great because one thing I know, because I looked up all kinds of statistics, Gen Zs and millennials are coming back to church at an alarming rate. For the first time in history, that group is growing faster and bigger than the boomers, which has always been that concrete segment of churchgoers. So that group of Gen Z and millennials are going on average 2.4 times per month. That's pretty huge. You think about that. That's a big number. And I believe that was a Gallup poll that I quoted. Step 2, prayer. Reconnect with humility and guidance. And I've talked about this. It scares me to pray. It's intimidating for me, especially if I'm around friends, even at the dinner table. I listen to some of my friends, male, female, whatever, and they're so eloquent and they speak and they pray so nicely. I'm like, how could I do that? I've written a book. Can't I pray like that? Or, God forbid, I asked Teresa to get down on her hands and, get down on her knees and pray. That is so hard for me. I got to work on that, and I am. Step 3, community. Rebuild circles of belonging and accountability. Step 4, family. Prioritize love and service at home before preaching it online. This is huge. Get out of the backyard and get onto the front porch. I've said this in another episode. That's fine, but it's huge. Think about it. I love our backyard. I love going out there and playing with my girls, the dogs, Gracie and Coco. But for some reason, though, things happen, interactions, whatnot, 10 times more on the front porch than they do hidden in the backyard. So think about that. Step 5, resilience. Persevere when results aren't instant. The long game receives hope. 6, Gratitude. Practice daily thankfulness because gratitude fuels joy and purpose. Now, the dream isn't dead. It's just dormant, right? That's what I believe. The dream is dormant. It's waiting for hearts to realign with these truths. I think these 6 are a good way forward. Now, I had something that happened recently. I've been doing the type of sales job for 35 years. I've had 2 jobs outside of the Navy. My most recent job is I've been with my company for 19 years. Next year it'll be 20. And it's a similar type of job that I had prior where I was at for 15 years. And I've driven. That was my office, was my car. I've never had a personal car of my own. Now, it's just gotten to the point now where it's kind of weird though, because my next big birthday, and this kind of blows me away, is my next big birthday starts with a number like that. I'll just say that. That kind of is wild, if you ask me. But driving 500 miles a week, 1,000 miles a week, I don't know, 2.5, 3 million miles over the last 35 years. It's just gotten to the point where it's become an issue, you know? What Teresa and I decided to do was go ahead and wait, because what I was going to do is maybe talk to my company and see if they could do any type of virtual or, you know, hybrid type of job, something like that. Because I work for a really big company. And what Teresa said, it's like, you know what, let's just wait. This was about 3 weeks ago. Almost 4. She said, let's just wait. And I said, yeah, let's just do that. And I'll just think about it and pray about it and whatnot. Well, about 10 days ago, I'm working with my boss, and we are in a Panera in Des Moines, Iowa. And we both have our little earbuds in. And I like Bose earbuds. He likes AirPods. But we were on a conference call that was a setup for last week's meeting that we went to, a national meeting. Well, we got on this conference call, but it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. It was actually a reorganization. So keep in mind, I've been doing my job like I've been doing it for 35 years in a car driving every day. I don't know, 80 to 90 overnights a year, sometimes more. There's a reorganization, though, and my job has changed. Effective in about 3 weeks, actually, it'll become to where it's majority hybrid with a much significantly smaller travel for important clients, things like that. So I only share that because I'm not sure why I'm sharing it. You know, it felt right to put it in here because it's so hard sometimes to think, you know, you've been working and doing something and you think, is it really worth it? And then I have something come through like this, and it shocked me. It touched me. And I'm like, you know, maybe it wasn't a miracle for me, but it was definitely a prayer answered. So I think for me, though, if I could go back, though, maybe it's just to see what it is for you that you need. Maybe you got to close your eyes to see what matters most. I don't know if you have to get down on your knees, but maybe sometime close your eyes and see what you see. The American dream isn't dead. Isaiah 43:18 through 19 says, "But forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do. For I am about to do something new. See, I have already begun. Do you not see it? The American dream isn't dead. It's waiting for us to stop hating each other and start loving what's worth standing for." And Galatians 5:13 says, "Use your freedom to serve one another in love." The dream survives when we love what's behind us more than we hate what's in front of us. Have you figured out what that means to you now? I think it's flipped. And I think that diving into your faith can help flip that back to where we start caring more about what's important than hating what we don't like. God bless.